Hello, friends. Chris Corsi here, president of Thrive Today, and I want to welcome you to the Relational Skills in Real Life podcast. I'm glad you're here. Today's topic is learning from others who have relational skills. That's right. How do we learn from other people who have relational skills that we're missing? You see, when we have gaps, how can we recognize people that have something that we need? What do when we discover these relational gold mines in our communities as well as in our network? How do we learn from them? How do we navigate this terrain? Well, you know what? There are relational gold mines in our communities, and you are a relational gold mine for someone else as well, because we all have something we need to receive, and we all have something we need to give. Those with a lot of skill and maturity actually need to give a lot of life. Those who need some more life need to receive some more life. And so we want to get really good at identifying what are we looking for and how do we respond if we do find someone who has a skill that we're missing. You see, these are great questions. And let's start by highlighting what relational skills are so that we know what are we looking for. So relational skills are what we use to make our relationships work, both our relationship with God and with our relationship with each other. Relational skills are character skills. So they become part of the fabric of our character and our personality. And so when you have relational skills, you'll use them throughout your life. You know anybody who's just really calm? Do you know anyone that seems to bounce back when they're upset? Or do you know anyone that just seems to be in tune with what God's doing and what God sees? These are relational skills, and we also call them gentle protector skills because the fruit of your using these skills is that people feel loved, they feel valued, they feel seen, heard, and understood. They feel protected and cared for because we watch over them to notice weaknesses that we can protect. Whereas predators, yeah, they look for weaknesses they can exploit, but gentle protectors look for weaknesses that they can protect so that we're reflecting the good shepherd who loves and cares for us well. This is a big deal. And so we can see it this way. When we see others who have relational skills we're missing, we are standing at a growth doorway where these are opportunities for God to grow something good in us that reflects his kingdom and his family. God's children should and can reflect their heavenly Father who loves well. So big picture here. When you notice someone who has a relational skill that you don't, let's resist comparison. We want to stay curious and mindful that skills are trained, not inherited. Though it may feel like some of the skills are inherited, the reality is that someone downloaded their skills into our brain and our minds so that these skills become familiar and personal. They just simply are reactions and habits we use without having to think about it. These skills become automatic when they are rooted in our character. Another person's strength is proof that growth is possible because they learned their skills somewhere. And somehow along the way, they downloaded skills from other people. They received those skills. So we want to move from comparison to curiosity. I know that our reflex is often when we see someone with relational skills, they might say, I should be better at that. Why am I not like them? Or we feel the shame response where we want to withdraw, minimize, and critique. Instead, we want to train our brain to say, what exactly are they doing that works? What is it that I see in this person that's working well for them? And I want to emulate that. I'd love for my personality to be able to reflect God in that way or to be more patient and understanding. So we're training our mind to think of things in a new way when it comes to what happens in us when we see other people have relational skills. And then we want to break the skills down. What is their tone of voice like? What about eye contact? How were they regulating their emotions under pressure? Were they good at repairing when there was a rupture in some way? What feelings can you identify this person was feeling? And we want to stay present and we watch them stay present when others get very intense or go offline into enemy mode. So curiosity keeps our brain in a flexible learning state where creativity blossoms instead of a threat mode where there's rigidity and big feelings that we're not able to feel, share, or quiet. So second, we want to name what we see in other people without feeling shame. So We might think, I'm bad at relationships, or I haven't practiced this skill yet. That's the big difference from I haven't practiced this skill yet to boy, I'm really bad at relationships. Relational capacity is built through repetition, not willpower. So if someone else can do it, that means it's a learnable skill. It's not mystical, it's not magic. This helps to shift the narrative from identity to skill. This is a skill I can train. This is a skill I can learn. And so you can ask yourself, who do you know that lives in their face and shows some glad to be together joy when they interact with people? Who seems to be a very relational person and they notice when they go offline and they can help correct it? They may even say something like, wow, I'm really mad right now. I need a breather to calm down or some space. Now, they may not say these exact words, but they can recognize when they've slipped into enemy mode and they can correct course. So, who bounces back from strong emotions when they're upset? Who recognizes when other people need a breather? And then we want to let it inspire instead of intimidate. So, what we're doing is when someone has a strength that you lack, your nervous system may interpret it as a hierarchy. They're above me in some way. But this is not about status, right? Or self-worth or value. In a healthy relational frame, their strength is a resource, not a threat. So we can see the strengths in other people as a resource. And you can even kind of, think about it this way. Their strength adds capacity to this room. I can borrow some of their capacity while I continue to grow my own. So the people that we're in relationship with, that we have a bond with, we can borrow some of their capacity. They're going to help us stay anchored when the storms come. And this keeps us connected rather than competitive because we don't this isn't a race or a competition. And what we're trying to do is practice micro imitation. And so growth accelerates when we can observe other people. We can imitate in small ways, and we can kind of repeat this pattern in low stakes settings. So we might try matching their pace of speech. We might try practicing their way of asking questions like, "Oh, I like how they were curious in this way." You might even notice you use some of their phrasing in a moment. But we want to notice how they recover when they miss something. What happens? How do they handle it when they miss something or they mess up or there's some big feelings here? So this is how we all learn relational skills in the first place. We learn through modeling. People with the skills interacted with us and with other people, and they used their skills in real life, in real time. So they're using skills with us, and we're watching how they use the skills with other people. And then, where appropriate, we can ask them and just, kind of from a mature perspective, we could say, hey, I notice you're staying really steady when things got really intense back there. How did you learn to do this? And with curiosity, this honors the person, right? And it normalizes growth and it deepens a connection. So we're highlighting and putting words to what we see and observe and something that we really admire. And you'll discover that this could lead to some really meaningful conversations with people. And we want to hold on to the reality that capacity is built under pressure. So you won't access a skill under stress until you've practiced it relationally when things are calm. So we often like to say, we practice under good conditions so that these skills will show up under difficult conditions. And so relational growth isn't theoretical, it's actually embodied. We are practicing with repetition, it's interactive. And we just want to keep in mind that we don't rise to our insight and our understanding. We fall to our training. So you're practicing these skills and they become part of the fabric of your character. And I can have a few thoughts come to mind as I think about what this looks like in my own life. I can remember at one of our Thrive trainings doing synchronized dancing, and I was careful. We were going in a circle in the room, and we had poles, throughout this room, and I didn't want my neighbor who was in line next to me to bump into this pole. So I was very careful to alert her when we were coming up to a pole while she's spinning and doing, these exercises with the synchronized dancing. So I would caution her. I'd put my hand over the pole to show her it's right there. And so she could be careful. And this little behavior meant a lot to my friend. She actually verbalized how much this meant to her, how grateful she was for this, what I felt like was a very small thing. You wouldn't have really thought twice about it. And then she was able to do this with her neighbor on the other side of her. So what I was doing as a gentle protector really impacted and touched her. And then she was able to start putting that into practice with her neighbor, which is a really good picture of how relational skills work. And I can also think about the time in my life where I first started working with Dr. Jim Wilder. And I found myself in the beginning of working together. I'd sometimes say things like he would say it, or I'd say similar things that he would say. And I would catch it. Other people would even kind of joke with me about it, like, you sound like Jim. So I had to learn, how do I follow Jim's example in his ways, but not be him? How do I be me, Chris Coursey, while I'm also growing in ways that reflect the person that God created me to be? So a little bit of joy goes a long way, and we learn how to be ourselves, not just under the hard conditions and difficult conditions, but even under the good conditions. How do we reflect the life that God's placed in us and then pass that on? So we want to find ways of connecting with other people which reflect God's heart and really reflect who God made us to be. We want to watch and learn, which is an important part of this journey. And you know what? Personally, when I'm not simply observing someone, I might use appreciation and gratitude to engage and interact with them. I might, just ask some questions to engage them and to hear their story. I might give a compliment to what I observe, then using some curiosity to better understand their story. And I do this relationally, not coming across in a creepy or weird way with people. I understand the context, and usually it's people I already have a relationship with in some way, or people that I know well enough, like a colleague, that I could ask some questions. So as we think about applying this to our lives, I want to invite you to take a moment and reflect on a skill that you're lacking or a skill that you're weak in. What would you like to see strengthened in your life? And then we want to ask Jesus, if you'd like to take this step, ask Jesus to show you someone around you who is strong in this skill. So say, God, who can you bring to mind a name or a face that has the skill that I'm needing? And now we want to think of people that we know who are good at something we are not so good in. And if God leads to some point, not only can you observe and just learn from their example, if God leads and you feel comfortable, you can use curiosity to ask them questions about what you observe. And this can open the door to something. If the person wants to share more, they can. But you're, in a sense, creating belonging by interacting with people and putting words to what you observe and appreciating other people. So, friends, I want to invite you to visit thrivetoday.org to find resources and materials and next steps for your skill growth journey. You can join us at one of our in-person trainings to really jumpstart your skill training. We have our 5-day Thrives, as well as our Habit Builder courses, which provide exercises in an online format, either with other people or you use the skills on your own terms in your own time. But learn more about those next steps at the website and really what you need to go forward in your growth, in your maturity. And friends, I pray that this is the start of something good for you today.